How about yourself?
Good, good. I miss seeing you run into meetings and stuff. I used to be driving around and see you heading somewhere.
I've kind of been stay at home.
All right, everyone, just to let you know, we are now on Facebook Live. We haven't quite hit the 7 o'clock hour, so we're going to wait just a couple more minutes to give everyone a chance to get here on time. But just want to let you know we are recording and we are broadcasting on Facebook at this time.
John Tate said he's going to take a couple minutes later.
Everyone, we're just waiting for a couple more people to arrive, and then we'll get started. For those at home who might be watching, we're waiting just a couple minutes to um, wait for a couple more people to arrive. So we're 2 minutes after the hour. We'll begin very shortly. Got a couple people with some technical difficulties here, so we want to give them a minute to log in.
Just got him. She should be trying. She's on the phone.
Okay, we'll start in just 1 minute. All right, everyone, we're going to begin. I know we're waiting for a couple other people to get started. We're having some technical difficulties for some. I'm hoping the help desk can help those who want to get in, but we are 6 minutes after the hour, and out of courtesy for people who are watching along on Facebook Live, and because we've got a healthy agenda in front of us, we wanted to get started. So the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could please stand and face the east for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, very much for that. We're going to get started here with a couple of proclamations, just so people sort of understand how we're communicating. We do have everybody on mute, and if you want to speak to an item, okay. So what we're going to do is read a couple of the proclamations that we have. But for those of you who want to raise, to ask a question, please remember to go down to the participant list. Down at the bottom, there's the ability for you to raise your hand as a logo. Please raise your hand if you'd like to be recognized, and then unraise your hand after you've spoken, so I know you don't want to speak again. So before we get started today, there's really a couple things before us, the first of which is two proclamations that we have before us that are very important to the community. The first of which is for Pride Month. June is Pride Month here in this country, and in Racine we celebrate Pride Month, so I just want to read the proclamation. Proclamation from the City of Racine, whereas the principle of universality of human rights is enshrined in the United Nations Declaration, proclaims that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ communities of the City of Racine are an integral part of the vibrant culture and climate in our city, and the diverse LGBT community continues to contribute to widespread academic, economic, artistic, and social spheres within and around our community. The month of June was designated Pride Month to commemorate the Stonewall riots, which occurred in June of 1969, and are generally recognized as the catalyst of the LGBTQ rights movement. Whereas the City of Racine remains committed to protecting the civil rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities, as the power and purpose of this iconic event proves vital in our unified efforts to forge a more open and just society. Whereas the City of Racine's active and involved LGBTQ communities make an indelible impact on the quality of life in the city, and Pride Month serves as a call to our collective consciousness to persist in the fight to eradicate prejudice and discrimination everywhere. Now, therefore, I, Corey Mason, the Mayor of the City of Racine, do hereby proclaim June of 2020 Pride Month in the City of Racine. And the other proclamation that we have for today is in commemoration of a real pillar of the community, a man who has been of the cloth for half a century now, and I want to thank Alder Jones for suggesting this proclamation. Whereas St. Paul Baptist Church is Racine's oldest historically African American church congregation, tracing its origins to 1857, 8 years before the abolition of slavery, whereas St. Paul has been a leading presence in the Racine community, its significance growing palpably under the leadership of Reverend Lawrence Lee Kirby, who was called to the church's pastorate in 1981, whereas Bishop Kirby has led St. Paul in many enhancements and initiatives that have improved life for many in Racine, including construction of St. Paul Gardens Apartments, conversion of the historic St. Rose Catholic Church into the Miracle Center, establishment of the Good Samaritan Center and Food Pantry, and plans to add decent, affordable housing in the church's neighborhood by constructing another apartment complex at St. Paul Commons. Whereas Bishop Kirby has used his leadership and creativity during his time at St. Paul to bring about many other ministries designed to meet community needs, including Hope House, Child Development Center, Godfathers, Godmothers, and St. Paul Economic Development Incorporated. Whereas Bishop Kirby has led St. Paul congregation with infectious zeal, energy, and optimism for nearly 4 decades, and has been a Christian ministry for 5 decades. I, therefore, Corey Mason, as the mayor of the city of Racine, do hereby announce and proclaim that this Sunday, June 7th, 2020, shall be proclaimed Bishop Lawrence Lee Kirby Day in the city of Racine. And again, thank you to Alder Jones for bringing this to our attention, and we congratulate Bishop Kirby on his half a century of ministry. So with that, we will go into the agenda. I am looking, usually at this point, I would ask the council president if there are any, oh, there he is. Alder Tate, do you know of any excused absences?
Alder Mi'kmaq has asked to be excused.
Okay, great. With that, I am going to unmute it and actually ask the clerk to, do we need to call the roll? I'm looking at Tara to see if we actually need to verbally call the roll or if it's enough here. No, she's shaking her head no. So bear with me, we're still getting used to how to do some of these details online, so please forgive me. Before we jump into the committee reports, because a lot has happened in the last week or so, and there's a lot on our minds, I actually want to take out of order the second to the last agenda item on page 9, item 0322-20, and this is the resolution against racism in response to what we've all been witnessing across the country. And I want to thank several alders for suggesting that we do this today. I actually wanted to bring this up now because I think there's a lot on people's minds, and I think it's important at the start of the meeting that we bring this up. Alder Lemke first suggested this. Is Alder Lemke on the line? Don't see her. Seeing Alder Tate, would you be willing to make a motion regarding item 0322-20?
Sure. First, I'll read it. Item 0322-20, a resolution from Mayor Mason, co-sponsored by Alder Lemke, President Tate, Alder Taft, Alder Young, Alder Levy, Alder Mi'kmaq, Alderwoman Glenn, Alder Perez, Alder Horton, Alder Jones, Alder Land, Alder Santiago, and Alder West, taking a stand against racism in the city of Racine. Move to approve.
All right. Is there a second? Raise your hand if you'd like to second. Second from Alder Land. There were several seconds, but Alder Land was the quickest. Alder Tate, would you, if you wouldn't mind, I'm actually going to read the resolution. I know we usually have attachments and proceed that way from the committee work, but these are historically important times, and I think it bears consideration given what's literally happening outside the city right now as people are gathering in solidarity with what happened. I do want to thank Alder Lemke and others for bringing the suggestion of us taking a formal stance this evening for doing this. Whereas George Floyd, a resident of Minneapolis, Minnesota, who was the father of a 6-year-old girl, worked at a Salvation Army store and Latino bistro, and who was referred to by friends as a gentle giant, that on May 25th, 2020, George Floyd, an unarmed black man, was murdered by a police officer while other officers did nothing to assist him while he pleaded for help, saying that he couldn't breathe. In the wake of his death, we have watched as our nation has cried out for justice, and we have watched the pain caused by the long history of systemic racism in our nation rise up. As residents of the city of Racine join the nation in mourning the senseless and tragic loss of life and recognize racism can only be addressed if we all take a serious look at how we contribute to the problem and commit to becoming part of the solution. And that as elected leaders of the city of Racine, we see and hear Racine's African American community members, like so many across the country, who are saying they are tired of this violence against Black bodies, tired of the lack of accountability, and tired of the continued uphill fight for justice and basic rights and safety. And whereas we see the anguish, pain, and trauma that racism has inflicted on communities of color, their families, their neighborhoods, and our entire city, whereas we recognize that racism is real, implicit bias is real, the communication has every reason to cry out for justice and accountability. Now, therefore, as elected officials of the city of Racine, we recognize our responsibility to work to end racism in all of its forms, and our unique responsibility for creating policies that promote equity and address injustice systemically. As a city, we stand in solidarity with those who believe that we can work together to demand justice and change, and now therefore be it further resolved that the city of Racine, the mayor, and members of the city council commit to work with members of the community to address, fight, and root out all racism in our city. And with that, got a motion in a second. I imagine people may want to comment or address this issue. Alder Tate, you made the motion. Would you like to speak to it?
Sure. I mean, the resolution effectively speaks for itself, but in the city of Racine, it's particularly, I think, important that our city government speak up about this, noting that we are, been identified as one of the second worst communities for African Americans, and criminal justice and the impact of disproportionate policing, plays a role in that. So it's important for our city government, for our common council, for our alders and the mayor, and everybody, rallying our resources that exist, acknowledge, and also work to change those circumstances and ensure that George Floyd gets justice where we can affect that, and also to ensure that situations like what happened to George Floyd don't occur in the city of Racine. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Horton.
Just like to say, I think it's time that, we all band together to make change for the city of Racine and all around the country. And I think that we have to show that by being leaders and showing it by examples. I've been to so many meetings, I've heard so much, I've been to so many work studies, but it seems as if it falls on deaf ears. And so now is the time, now is the moment. And I would just like to ask, my colleagues on the Common Council that we all work together to fight racism, and not only that, the inequalities and the injustice practices that are practiced all over the world. So I challenge this Common Council to stand with us, and we stand together, because this is a cause that we all should be fighting. People are protesting while we are here at Common Council. People are protesting all over the world, and we want to lead. We want to lead by example. And I just ask you guys to stand with us and stand with me as we go forward in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Horton. I'm realizing that Melissa Lemke is here and has been the whole time. Alder Lemke, would you like to speak to the item?
Sure, just briefly. I mean, like the past two alders mentioned, I think it speaks for itself, but, and I know Alder Tate II mentioned, we have a community member who frequently comes and likes to remind us that we were ranked as a place that was not positive for African American people. And I just think it's important for city leaders to say that we will take responsibility to enact change in our policies and in our processes, and in anything that the city touches that we have control over. So I think we should just, take this moment. I know it's not unique in our nation's history, but I think we should just take this moment to stop, reflect, and, review as individuals throughout the city and as city leaders to say, what can we do what can we get right? What can we, do to make that fact change? So, thank you.
Thank you, Alder Lemke. Alder Coe, I believe, is asking to be added as a co-sponsor. Alder Coe, do you want to speak to the item?
Well,
or
I just think it's all important for us to be on board with this. We need to move this city forward, and we can't do it without all of us working together. So, thank you.
Thank you. So without objection, Alder Coe will be added as a co-sponsor. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the item before us? Okay, well, seeing no other communication on it, I am going to, I don't know if Tara can see the participant list at the same list that I can, so I am going to simply unmute everybody and ask her to call the roll. Hang on just a sec. Tara, please call the roll.
Alder Horton. Alder Horton.
Aye.
Alder West. Alder West. Alder Young.
Aye.
Alderwoman Glenn. Alder Lamb. Alder Lamb.
Aye.
Alder Perez.
Aye.
Alder Taft.
Aye.
Alder Lemke.
Aye.
Alder Coe.
Aye.
Alder Jones.
Aye.
Alder Tate.
Aye.
Alder Santiago.
Aye.
Alder Levy.
Aye.
Alder Peterson.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Now we will move to the committee reports. Alder Taft, do you have any items for separate consideration?
I have had no such requests.
Please proceed with your report.
All right, scrolling up. Okay. Item number 275-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the city attorney's office, submitting the claim of Progressive Universal Insurance Company for consideration, A. Anguiano, for consideration for disallowance. Recommendation of the Finance and Personnel Committee is that the claim of Progressive Universal Insurance Company be disallowed. Let's see, item 286-20. Subject communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the city attorney's office, submitting the claim of Steve Hlavacek for consideration for disallowance. Recommendation that the claim be disallowed. Item 291-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the fire department, requesting permission to apply for, and if awarded, accept the 2019 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant, EMW 2019 FG 10685, and the 2019 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant, EMW 2019 FG 10687, grant control number 00294. Recommendation of the Finance and Personnel Committee is that the permission to apply for, and if awarded, accept the 2019 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant and the 2019 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant, both of them be approved. Fiscal note, this grant is for $946,405 with the city's hard match of 10%. Funding is available in account 45030-57310, 45130-57330, and 53240 of the 2020 Capital Improvement Program. Next item is item 292-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the fire department, requesting permission to apply for, and if awarded, accept the 2020 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Supplemental COVID-19 Grant, EMW-2020 FG 02021, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the memorandum of agreement between the city of Racine and regional fire departments to facilitate the acquisition and distribution of the equipment procured under this grant. Grant control number 303, 00303, excuse me. Recommendation is that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the memorandum of agreement between the city of Racine and regional fire departments to facilitate the acquisition and distribution of the equipment procured under this grant. Fiscal note, this grant is for $134,928 with a hard match of 10% for each participating fire agency. Funding for the city's match is available in account 13001-53200. Next item is item 293-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the fire department requesting permission to accept the 2020 Wisconsin Hazmat Response System Equipment Grant 2020 HRER 01-1 1933. Recommendation is that permission to accept the 2020 Wisconsin Hazmat Response System Equipment Grant be granted. Sorry, I'm getting some indication that I'm blurry, so I was trying to fix that. Hopefully light will help. Okay, recommendation is that permission to accept the 2020 Wisconsin Hazmat Response System Equipment Grant be granted. Fiscal note, this grant provides for the 100% reimbursement of hazardous materials monitoring equipment purchased by the fire department. The amount of the grant is $4,220.48. This grant from the state of Wisconsin is Department of Military Affairs is for hazardous materials monitoring equipment purchased by the fire department for use as part of our regional hazardous materials response team. There is no local match and no levy dollars used in this grant. Next item, 297-20, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason to authorize and enter into an agreement between the City of Racine and the Racine Wastewater Commission for the joint evaluation of alternatives, design, construction, and operation of a lift station, force main, and related infrastructure to serve the planned destination hotel and convention center, redeveloped Festival Hall, and Lakeshore Towers along Lake Avenue in the City of Racine. The total cost of the engineering services shall be $165,000 to be paid for by the Racine Wastewater Utility and reimbursed by the City of Racine. Recommendation from the Finance and Personnel Committee is to approve the request by Mayor Mason to authorize and enter into an agreement between the City of Racine and the Racine Wastewater Commission for the joint design, construction, and operation of a lift station, force main, and related infrastructure to serve the planned destination hotel and convention center, Festival Hall, redeveloped Festival Hall, Lakeshore Towers, along Lake Avenue in the City of Racine. Total cost shall be $165,000 to be paid for by the Racine Wastewater Utility and reimbursed by the city. And the total cost of the project is expected to be $165,000 divided as $30,000 for study and evaluation, $70,000 for project engineering and design, $15,000 for bidding the project, and $50,000 for construction, oversight, and inspection. These figures include any expenses and necessary equipment. It is expected that $115,000 of this total will be expended in fiscal year 2020, and the remaining $50,000 in fiscal year 2021. Ultimately, funding will come from the overall $21 million adopted cost for the convention center project, but prior to the actual bond issuance, will be advanced from either TID number 9 increment capture and share, or from intergovernmental revenues, each of which source is providing portions of the debt service on the $21 million bond. Funds from these sources are authorized and available, so no budget amendments are necessary.
So Alder Taft, if you could hold just for a second. Alder Perez has his hand up. I want to see if he has a question or a comment on this. Alder Perez?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I was just wondering, was this an unexpected expense for the lift, or was that something that was anticipated beforehand and proposed for funding now?
Yeah, it was anticipated, but I think it would be better if Jim is next to the city attorney, if he could explain how we got to this point. Administrator Palanek, are you there?
Yes, I am. Mr. Mayor, members of Common Council, this action item is actually the agreement so that the Wastewater Commission will front the costs and then the city will in turn reimburse it. So that's what we anticipated these expenditures all along, but this is actually an agreement whereby the commission pays the cost, the city reimburses, because it's wastewater utility that really needs to be in charge of the oversight, the design, and making certain it meets all of the city standards and requirements. So by them doing it, them being in control of it, and them fronting the cost, we know that it's the right sort of infrastructure in the right manner, and then the city simply reimburses. So we needed this agreement between the two, which is sort of typical when you do something like this in order to move this forward. But yes, it's been budgeted. This is really the agreement between the utility and the city.
Thank you.
Perez, does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Alder Glenn has her hand up as well. Alder Glenn?
Thank you. I was just wondering, was this in the original contract with them, or is this, and why it did, if it's not, why didn't it go along with it?
Mr. Palanek?
Yes, Alderwoman Glenn, this is part of the overall budgeted costs. But again, it's sort of the process you move through in order to do it. In this case, we have to have this agreement with the wastewater utility so that they will do the oversight and expend the monies up front, and then the city in turn can reimburse them.
And I, thank you. Thank you for that. I just have another question. Now, this is something that they would not pay us for, who's building the hotel, because at these times with the interest rates so low and everything, that them themselves are saving money, that why wouldn't they pay for this, for us to do this?
Well, this is public infrastructure. It's part of the wastewater system. So it's the city's lift station, the city's sewer main, and part of the public infrastructure that will own and be remained by the wastewater utility. So typically those infrastructure costs are paid for by the city.
Okay, thank you. That's no more questions.
Thank you, Alder Glenn. Seeing no further comments, Alder Taft, could you please continue with your report, or does that end your report?
Nope, that concludes the report from Finance and Personnel.
Okay. Then without objection, we will add those items to the consent agenda. Moving on now to the Public Works and Services report. Alder Jones, do you have any items for separate consideration?
Thank you, Your Honor. No, I do not at this time.
Please proceed with your report.
Thank you. Item 0272-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Park and Recreational Service Department, submitting change order number 1 on contract 201-90065, Graceland Cemetery Asphalt Contractor, Inc. Contractor. Recommendation that the change order be approved in the decreased amount of $40,559.77. Physical note further recommends that the overpayment amount of the change order be appropriated to the Parks Land Improvement. Item 0274-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Public Works, submitting final payment for the following. Contract number 201-90065, Graceland Cemetery Asphalt Contractors Inc. Contractor. Recommendation of the Public Works and Service that asphalt be accepted and final payment authorized for a total contract amount of $96,050.48. Further recommends that the overpayment amount be appropriated to the object number 45050-57110 Parklands Improvement. Physical note, contract 201-90065 was authorized on the resolution 02728 dated, 0728-19 dated July 16, 2019. Contract 0201-9002, 3 Mile Road Reconstruction Phase 2, Lalonde Contractors, Inc. Contractor. Recommendation of Public Works and Service that the contract be accepted and final payment authorized for a total contract amount of $1,295,765.09. Final payment to include retainage. Physical note, contract 0201-9002 was authorized on the resolution 0253-19 dated April 3rd, 2019. Contract 201-9003, Southside Accessible Streets and Alley Paving, Lalonde Contractor, Inc., contractor. Recommendation of the Public Works and Service that it be accepted and final payment authorized for a total contract amount of $709,276.44. Final payments to include retainage. Physical note, contract 201-90003 was authorized on the resolution 0193-19 dated March 5th, 2019. Item 0287-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Public Works, submitting change order number 1 on contract 201-9002, 3 Mile Road Construction, Phase 2, Lalonde Contracting, Inc., contractor. Recommendation of the Public Works that the change order requested by Lalonde Contractors for 3 Mile Road Construction be approved and the final in the amount of $93,413.59. Further recommend that fundings to defray the cost of the change be appropriated from the following accounts: $64,274.53 from the IG Revenue Fund, $29,139.06 from the IG Revenue Fund Caledonia portion, for the total amount of $93,413.59. Physical note, funds are available as herein delineated. Item 0288
Well, hang on just a second, Alder Jones. Alder Glenn, did you have a question about that item?
Yes, I did have one quick question. Now with a change order this large, does it still make them the lowest responsible bidder when we gave them the contract?
I will ask Mr. Palanek or Mr. Letney to try to answer your question, Alder Glenn.
Thank you.
If I may respond, Mr. Mayor, these kinds of projects are unit price bids. So when they're first bid, they're selected as the low bidder based on the lowest overall unit price bids. But when the actual project gets done, there's different quantities that wind up being actually completed. So say the bid may be for so many yards of concrete, but in fact, there's a few more yards than what was bid. So it doesn't change what they originally bid. It just simply changes the quantities. So in that regard, it does not alter that they were the lower bid, because anybody would have, once they were selected based on their prices, had the same quantities in the end.
Okay, thank you. It just seems like almost $100,000 makes a big difference, and how they figured was pretty off for something like for that. So I'm just questioning. I've seen a lot of these on here, and I've never asked the question that if that changes it, because being off $100,000, almost $100,000, really does make a difference in a bid. I'm sure it does. But thank you.
Thank you, Alder Glenn. Alder Jones, could you continue with your report, please?
Thank you. Item 0288-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Public Works, submitting change order number 1 on contract 201-9003, Southside Accessible Street and Alley Paving, Lalonde Contractor. Recommendation of the Public Works that the change order requested by Lalonde Contractors, Inc. on the contract 201-9003, Southside Accessible Street and Alley Paving be approved in the amount of $64,283.35. Further recommends that the funding to defray the cost of the change order be appropriated from the following accounts: $54,161.40 from DPW Paving, $6,690.69 from DPW Sidewalks, $3,431.26 from DPW Curb and Gutter, for a total of $64,283.35. Physical notes, funds are available as herein delineated. And that is the end of my report.
Without objection, these items will be placed on the consent agenda. We'll now move on to public safety and licensing. Alder Coe, do you have any items for separate consideration?
No, I don't.
Please proceed with your report, sir.
Item 27120, communication requesting that the Public Safety and Licensing Committee determine the day of the week and the hour at which it will meet for the next year. Recommendation of the committee was to continue them on Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Next item, 029020, communications submitting renewal requests for intoxicating liquor and fermented malt beverages for the 2021 year. Recommendations of the committee to approve the renewal licenses for the attached list with the exceptions as listed below. Eggplant Cafe Class B, call in for formal expression of concern in regards to not maintaining regular business hours and update on agent. Bureaus Class B, call in for formal expression of concern in regards to not maintaining regular business hour. Tropical Paradise Class B, call in for formal expression of concern for not having an operating business location. HIAV Loci Class B, calling for formal expression of concern for not having an operating business location for over 2 years. Midtown Market Class A, defer to next public safety and licensing meeting due to not turning in a renewal application. Rock Inn, concern from meetings in March about not being open. Class B, calling for formal expression of concern in regards to not maintaining regular business hours. Beachside Oasis, Class B, public facility, defer to next Public Safety and Licensing Committee meeting due to not turning in a renewal application. Jalisco and Michoacan Class B, defer to next Public Safety and Licensing Committee due to not turning in a renewal application. Wei Chai Cuisine, no application turned in. They are closed, did not put on renewal list. Class B and Class C, calling for formal expression of concern in regards to not maintaining regular business hours. American Legion Post 546, no application turned in. Class B, defer to next Public Safety and Licensing meeting due to not turning in a renewal application. And that is the end of my report. Can't hear you.
Alder Glenn, I see your hand is raised. Did you have a question?
Yes, I did have for the chairman of the Public Safety and Licensing Committee. There was another business that we spoke about that's on 6th Street in Racine, the old Henry and Wanda's. That one did not make the list here. Was that an oversight, maybe?
Yeah, because they are going to be called in. So I will make sure that happens.
If we can.
I see
Right.
Tara's got her hand raised.
Yeah, I'm gonna refer to the city clerk and maybe let her explain. Clerk Coolidge.
So there is one listed as HIAV. It's under the trade name of the local, which is a Class B, and that is the old one downtown that I believe you are referring to.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Sorry, just appreciate that there's a lot going on in the city right now. Without objection, oh, I'm sorry, Alder Lemke, you had your hand raised.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the same thing that Tara did. Is they're named the local, and so they are being. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Without objection, then, these items will be added to the consent agenda. We will now then move on to the report of the mayor. Alder Tate, did you have any items for separate consideration?
I have received no such requests.
Please proceed with your report.
All right, item 0298-20, communication sponsored by the gentlewoman from the 13th. on behalf of Chief Howe requesting to appear before the Finance and Personnel Committee to discuss applying for and accepting the 2021 Mayor's Gang Collaborative Grant. Fiscal note, the grant is in the amount of $63,400 and no city match is required. Item 0315.
Hang on just a second, Alder Tate. Alder Peterson has his hand raised. Alder Peterson, did you have a question?
Yes, I was trying to get a consideration, separate consideration for 031920.
We will take that out. Why don't we let him go through the report? We will pull that out to do that separately. Alder Tate, if you could proceed with the report, and
Sure.
And then we'll take that one up at the end.
All right, sure. 0315-20, communication from Mayor Mason submitting the following appointments. Alder Santiago Jr. to the Affirmative Action and Human Rights Commission, Damian Evans to the Affirmative Action Human Rights Commission, Olivia Alcorta, Affirmative Action and Human Rights Commission, Jen Adamski to the Community Development Authority, Alder West to the Community Development Authority, Alder Land to the Board of Parks, Rec, and Cultural Services, Alder Tate II to the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Board, Alder Taft to the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Board, Alder Jones to the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Board, Alder Young to the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Board, Brian O'Connell to the Standing Joint Review Board, Stacy Shepard to the Board of Parks and Recreation and Cultural Services, and David Coey to the Board of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services. Item 0318-20.
Hang on just a second, Alder Tate. Alder Perez has his hand raised. Alder Perez, did you have a question on that item?
Yes, sir, I do. Usually there's a term, and these don't have any terms listed. What are the terms for these?
Good catch.
I will ask, I mean, they're all driven by ordinance, but I will refer your question to the clerk to try to address that question.
I will
Coolidge?
answer exactly what the mayor said, is that they are all driven by ordinance on how long their terms can be. None of the people on the list are filling unexpired terms, but if you have any particular ones, I'd be happy to look it up for you.
I just think that in the future, I know it may not be necessary, but I think it's important for us to know just the length of the terms. You know, are they 3 years, 1 year, new terms, or continuing terms, those kind of things. I think it's important for us to know. Thank you.
Okay,
That's all.
no problem. I'll make sure going forward that that's included.
Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you, Alder Perez.
I also agree with Alder Perez
Alder
on that.
Tate, if you would please continue with the report.
Yes, item 0318-20, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason, request for approval to apply and accept $100,000 in planning grant funds from the Center for Tech and Civic Life, CTCL, a 501c3 nonprofit organization for planning safe and secure election administration in the city of Racine in 2020 and coordinating such planning with other cities in Wisconsin. Recommendation is to approve the application and acceptance of the grant funds. Fiscal note, $60,000 of these grant funds will be retained by the city of Racine, and $10,000 will be distributed to each of the cities of Green Bay, Kenosha, Madison, and Milwaukee for this coordinated planning. And then the final item for separate consideration is item 0319-20, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason, requesting to expand TID 002 for 1 year as permitted by state statute. Recommendation is to approve the extension. Fiscal note is that in extending TID 2, that we're providing an anticipated increment of approximately $700,000 in fiscal year 2022 to be used in accordance with state statutes for improving the city's housing stock. Move to approve.
The motion to approve the item, is there a second? If someone could wave their hand to second the item. Alder Lemke was first to the draw. Thank you, Alder Lemke. I guess I should back up for just a second. Without objection, the other items will be added to the consent agenda. Seeing no objection, those will be added to the consent agenda. We have a motion before us from Alder Tate. Alder Peterson, you had a question on this item, or wanted it for separate consideration. Did you have a question you wanted to answer, or did you want to speak to it specifically?
I wanted to speak to it specifically.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, from what I've read on this TID, it started in 1983, and we've been waiting as homeowners and taxpayers for this to come to fruition and no longer paying the TID and actually be used towards the general funds. I find it it's difficult for me to vote on something like this, especially with the financial troubles I imagine the state as well as the city is going to be in the next couple of years. That 700,000 will always be there if there's a project that somebody needs to vote on. I don't think it's proper to restrict that fund to housing projects. I think it should be used towards the general fund, and if there's a project that needs to come up for that money, that should be dealt with in that manner. I don't think it's proper to restrict that funds. TIDs are designed to pay off the TID and then go on the tax roll. This, to me, is not appropriate.
Okay. I'll ask either the city attorney Letney or the city administrator Palanek to explain this function of the law. It essentially allows municipalities to extend TIDs for 1 year, but only for the purposes of improvements in the city's housing stock. City Administrator Palanek, can you address that a little bit further?
Yes, Mayor Mason, members of the Common Council, you may remember a couple of years ago, the city had TID number 8 actually expired, and we did this very similarly at that time. We extended under state statute that one singular year, which in that case allowed us to capture about $650,000. And that created for the first time that fund that we then made available to homeowners to get these small loans for improvements. So it was all going back to individual homeowners to ultimately help housing stock. So again, with this TID ending, state statute would allow us to just have this 1 year. And when we do this, we capture all of the jurisdiction's money. So if we didn't do this, for instance, and we just simply decided that we wanted our share to come back to the general fund, we would only get about $375,000. But by doing this, we get $700,000 to use for housing stock in neighborhoods because we're capturing all of the increment from all of the various jurisdictions. So we think that makes a lot of sense. There's no end of need when it comes to housing stock that needs upgrading in the community, particularly for affordable housing for people who in many cases have difficulty trying to pay for roof repairs or porch repairs or just simple improvements to mechanical and heating systems. So this can go a long way to assist those people in neighborhoods.
Alder Lemke, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that I very much support this. I'd like to say that I was going to say exactly what Jim said, but just as eloquently, but I'm sure that's not true. Essentially, what I wanted to say is, you know, some people, there's a lot of new alders right now, and under state law, when you have a TID, you usually the money is going to developers, but for the last year, you can use it for these housing project, like not housing projects, but housing work, neighborhood development type work. And I think it's really important that in the city we have safe housing for people and healthy housing for people. And, you know, if we're talking about value to taxpayers, I get people calling me all the time asking whether XYZ thing that we're doing to the roads is gonna, you know, help stabilize their property taxes, or XYZ thing we're doing to the park is gonna, you know, what that's gonna do to their neighborhoods and their home values. And so, you know, I think one of the best things we can do.
We lost you.
Alder Lemke, we lost your audio and your signal there just for a second. I see Alder Young has his hand up. We'll go to him for just a second, and hopefully your connection improves. I hope you can hear us. Alder Young?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask the question that actually Jim brought up about increment going to different jurisdictions. And so the fact that there's an opportunity to retain the percentage of increment that we receive going directly to the city of Racine instead of going to the other taxing jurisdictions, I think that it would be prudent to make that type of investment in our housing stock in the long run. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that as a city, we're financially responsible and stable. And by doing that, we need to address the underlying conditions of our housing and making sure that we have a tax base willing to, and that's able to support basic services. And so I think that this is good public policy. This is something that we've done before, and this is something other communities do to support especially in this case, worker housing and low-income housing.
Thank you, Alder Young. It appears that Alder Lemke signal has reconnected. I didn't want to cut your comments short there. Alder Lemke, please continue.
Thanks. Sorry for my connection issue, but I was just going to say that, I think that one of the things for, people who are paying taxes is this helps stabilize neighborhoods, so it helps stabilize the tax base. And I also think it's important for, folks who, are in need of housing. So I think it kind of is a win for people who are homeowners and for people who need that housing.
Thank you very much, Alder Lemke. Alder Tate.
Thank you. I just wanted to quick comment and say, the funds that are used aren't restricted to any particular set of housing either. I think there's a number of, neighborhoods and residences and homeowners who, throughout the city who would really like to be able to do certain work on their homes, but the resources may be out of reach. And I know over the last few years, we provided forgivable loans, grants, and regular, very low interest loans out of these type of captured funds to send back out into the communities for homeowners to say, oh, now I can get a reasonable loan to repair, siding or roofing or porches. And I think, there are residents in the 6th district as well as the 3rd district and every other district who would like to be able to do some work on their homes, but don't necessarily have access to those funds or resources. That literally that's what these, that final year capture is for, is to capture that and then send it back out into the community for those home improvements. And I think based on our track record in the city of Racine, how we've sent those funds back out have returned well on investment. I don't want to say necessarily investment, but residents have taken advantage of those and done some good things to their homes to overall improve not only property values, but housing stock, as well as just people's appreciation and, enjoyment of their own neighborhoods because they're seeing the improvements that have been needed for many years. But I definitely hear Alder Peterson's concerns in terms of, holding those funds for that additional year when, communities may feel like they need them or want that return now. Ultimately, the difference between the year is, an extra almost $350,000 for availability. So I think that delay is worth it in terms of return on, let's say, investment for waiting a year to close the TID. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Tate. The queue is exhausted. I'm going to open the mute button and ask the clerk to call the roll. Please vote as you wish.
Alder Horton.
Aye.
Alder West.
Aye.
Alder Young.
Aye.
Alderwoman Glenn.
Aye.
Alder Lamb.
Aye.
Alder Perez.
Aye.
Alder Taft.
Oh, sorry, I was having trouble hearing. Aye.
Alder Lemke.
Aye.
Alder Coe.
Aye.
Alder Jones.
Aye.
Alder Tate.
Aye.
Alder Santiago.
Aye.
Alder Levy.
Aye.
Alder Peterson.
No.
That's 1 no and 13 yes.
All right, the motion carries. The last item on the agenda is to inform the council of the declaration of emergency and imposition of curfew that went into place last night and tonight. Alder Glenn, you had a question?
Yes, I do. And I need to back up a little bit for item 0315-20. I'm really finding it hard to vote on this when the dates are not on there. Something similar happened a couple weeks back when we voted on something and the dates, the guidelines and everything weren't put out there. So I really think that we need to have those dates put on there.
Okay, if you would like to ask for separate consideration, we can do that and do a roll call. And if you're uncomfortable voting for it, you are free to vote against those items.
It's just that I don't want to vote against them. I just think that we should have the dates on there so we're fully informed right now of the dates. Could maybe the city attorney give us those dates?
Alder Glenn, I'll ask Alder Coolidge to look up. I believe there are 4 or 5 committees referenced there. Alder Coolidge, if you would like to, I'm sorry, Alder Coolidge, Clerk Coolidge, if you could. Sorry about
Thanks for the
that.
promotion. No.
Sure.
I can definitely try to look at them up for you right now. It will take me a couple minutes to get each and every one of them. Is there one specific that you'd like, or you're looking for all of them right now?
No, I'm just kind of looking for all of them right now so that they're mentioned in this meeting, and then if something by chance, something might change. Not saying it will, but I really think the dates, we need to understand the dates when we're voting on it. Thank you.
I'm taking a few minutes to try to VPN in. Mayor, I don't know if you'd like to take a recess or continue on to announcements while I look them up and come
No,
back.
I mean, I'll just open it up at this point. I appreciate, Alder Glenn, that you would like that to occur. I would defer to other members of the council. We will be here for several minutes trying to figure that out. There's a lot of other things going on in the city right now.
Can I?
Alder Lemke, go ahead.
Can I say something? I can find it really quickly. It's on the very fabulous new city boards and commissions piece, so I could just look it up on the public website if you want me to.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. So if you go to our website, and as Clerk Coolidge is looking up the actual dates of the item, if you go to the city's webpage, well, Alder Lemke, if you have it up, if you want to just sort of drive people into the site, that'd be great.
I will very quickly. So it's a really great website. I've used it to refer people to our boards. The Affirmative Action and Human Rights is a 3-year term. I think there are some parks ones on there. That's a 3-year term. Let's see. Let me look up the Board of Review quick. Okay, the Board of Review it says term length 5. I would assume that means 5 years, but it says 5.
That is correct. It is 5 years. Beat me to it.
All right. The Community Development Authority, I think there were a couple of those.
And I can just tell you the CDBG Advisory Board ones are there by virtue of their positions as chairs of the committees per the statutes or per the ordinance. And so those are ones that would change in theory every year based on who makes up the executive committee per the city ordinance. So those would last a year.
Okay. Great. And the Community Development Authority is 3 years. So essentially everything is 3 years except the ones that are chairs of committees and the Board of Review, which is 5 years.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alder Lemke,
Thank you, Alder Lemke.
Yes, Alder Lemke and Clerk Coolidge, thank you very much for your help there. With that, we will now move on to the consent agenda. Alder Tate, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Please wave your hand. Alder Coe, all those in favor of the consent agenda, I'm going to unmute everybody. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Your Honor,
opposed?
did you get the declaration of emergency?
Yes, I mentioned that already. I can get to it in just a second if I need to reiterate it. So the consent agenda has passed. Just as a reminder, I do need to inform the council when there are declarations of emergencies around the imposition of curfew that occurred last night and will be in place again this night. We're doing those on a day-to-day basis, but wanted to be sure per the ordinance and the statutes to inform the council of that. The last thing that we have are common council announcements. So common council announcements are limited to recognition of city residents and employees, memorials, and non-political community events. Discussion of matters related to government business is prohibited. Alder Coe, I know we spoke earlier about you making an announcement. I will defer to you first.
All right. First off, I just want to thank the police department because I hear they made an arrest for the person that started the Thelma Orr Cop House on fire. It's not from Racine, is my understanding. That's great to hear. But I just wanted to let people know the importance of it. And I just went to our website that's on there. And it says Thelma Orr, after persevering through several bouts of tuberculosis, the death of 3 children and her husband, devoted her life to helping others. She served as an outreach worker for family planning, a field worker for the National Urban League, human resources director for Franklin School in 1963. She trained as a teacher and later became a workshop director in the Laubach Literacy Training Program. Through her outreach and advisory work at the Urban League, Ms. Orr facilitated facilitated special civil service tutoring to help prepare minority applicants for the police and fire department examinations, or was directly responsible for the recruitment and development of a number of African American police officers, including our current chief, Art Howell. She continued to serve in the community until the time of her death, serving on the George Bray Neighborhood Center Board, the Center for Community Concerns, Lincoln Neighborhood Centers, Inc., and the Kenosha Job Advisory Council. Her large collection of awards and tributes includes an honorary doctorate of social work degree conferred upon her by Carthage College. I just wanted to say it was a travesty this house was borne down. This is the second house that bears her name. We had one on Davis Place and stabilized the neighborhood. Then we moved on to a new neighborhood. And I just want the people in the community to know I believe we're going to rebuild this and make this better than ever. So I just want everybody to thank the police department for their hard work and diligence for catching the person so quickly. Thank you.
Well said, Alder Coe. Alder Horton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to say again, I want to echo Alder Cole's thank you to the police department and everybody that's out there. I know it's been tough. It's been some long nights, some 12-hour shifts, trying to keep the city, under control and trying to keep things in order. Also, on another note, I'd just like to congratulate my daughter, Brianna Horton, for graduating from college 2020, summa cum laude, top of her class at Marian University. So just want to say I love you and just keep doing what you're doing.
Congratulations, Alder Horton.
Thank you.
Alder Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to wish congratulations to all of the high school graduates throughout the city of Racine. It's going to be a different year for them in terms of, walking across the stage. There'll be some drive in graduation ceremonies, but, it is nonetheless in the midst of pandemic, achievements need to be celebrated. And I want to wish all the city of Racine, RUSD, and private school students congratulations on 2020 graduation. Thank you.
Well said. I just want to thank a number of people for the last few weeks that we've been going through. I mean, it's just been, I'm sorry, Alder Perez wanted to make an announcement, and I want to acknowledge that. My apologies, Alder Perez. I didn't see your hand up there.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to say thank you to all the first responders. I know it's been real difficult for them. And also for all those that have come out in the community and demonstrated for a just cause. And they've done it peacefully for the most part, and it's very appreciated throughout our community. We need to take a strong stance against racism all the way around, and the just work of the police and law enforcement. There's always going to be, unfortunately, sour apples in every profession, from politicians to police officers. So we need to weed those out as best we can and make sure that together we move this community forward in all communities and respect human life. And that's been very important. As in my personal experience, I've been through many riots, and thank God I've never had to take any action that's been negative on anyone like that. It's a difficult job they have, but you can't overdo it. You have to use self-control. And thank you to our officers for using that in our community. As you said earlier, a couple of times now, Your Honor, our city is very busy. I understand that. I understand there's some things going on right now. And just for the community who is a praying community, continue to pray for our community and the just that needs to come to those that are in public service and to our community members as well. And I think together, if we bond together, everyone from praying and doing what everyone we can, doing the right thing, we'll definitely have a place in moving forward and making this a better place to live. Thank you.
Well said, Alder Perez. So this has been really tumultuous times. I want to thank everybody who participated in the virtual event at 6 o'clock and remembering what happened to Mr. Floyd in Minneapolis and taking a stand for 9 minutes against racism. During that time, when we were kneeling, I had my kids ask questions, and they asked some really hard questions, like why is there racism? Why isn't there equality? Why do people kill people? They were tough questions. But earlier today, we had an event at the Thelma Orr House to announce the arrest of the individual, as Alder Coe mentioned, and for all the understandable pain and tumult that we're seeing across the country around policing and law enforcement and discrimination and the murder of an unarmed Black man at the hands of a police officer. Today we went by the Thelma Orr House, and next door there was a 7-year-old boy named Josiah who wanted to know when they were going to rebuild the cop house next door. And he wanted to let me know that he wanted to be a police officer someday, just like Chief Howell. And, in all the angst and understandable frustration that we have and everything that we need to do to improve the lives of our residents, certainly the hope of a 7-year-old boy wanting to follow in Chief Howell's footsteps and having faith and confidence in the community policing he sees next door to his home at that cop house really gave me hope. And so there's a lot of tension and some hard things going on in the city as we speak, and our law enforcement and first responders are putting themselves at risk to be out there. And I just want to thank all of them for putting their lives at risk, and ask the protesters to continue, who are being activists responsibly, to continue to do so. But then the last thing I will just end with, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. So please remember, everybody, it is not safe to be in large crowds. Even for the worthiest of causes, it is still, we find ourselves in the midst of a pandemic. We are at 1,225 cases as of today, and the numbers continue to increase. And so I ask everyone to please continue to practice social distancing and the state's foreseen guidelines that are out there. Many thanks to many public servants and people of goodwill who are trying to get us through as a city in these trying times. We will get through this together. With that, Alder West, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. God bless and stay safe.
Bet.